All right, Big Man, today is Tuesday. It's August 16th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. As always, I'm joined by my friend Chief. Chief, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Ed.
Good.
Back at it, back in the office. I was struggling last week. Feel back to myself, ready to go, ready to talk some Colts.
Good. I'm happy to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
How
are you doing?
I'm all right.
Just all right.
It was a rough 10-day stretch for your boy.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't had like a weekend, like a restful weekend in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like legitimately. It's too much for me.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot going on. But I feel like that's always August. Like everyone just like jams the fucking envelope because you're like summer's
You're
about
staring down the barrel.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
But you know what? I like the barrel.
Yeah,
I like to just cozy up inside there and just stay and just be inside. I got a fireplace this year. I can't fucking wait. I need a chimney sweep before I can open it up. I think I'm just going to call Dave. Just let White Sox Dave live out his fantasy.
We should call my guy to come.
Who did it? Yeah.
Yes, who came on the show, and then have him like train Dave how to do it.
Get your camera ready, Harry, because I think that's a great idea.
That would be unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Also, obviously, though, if you just if you're looking to do something, though, you should use the GameTime app if you want to go to a game or a concert or something like that.
We were just talking before we opened up Notre Dame preseason number 5, opening up at Ohio State preseason number 2. That's the game of the year, possibly, certainly the game of week 1.
Yeah.
It's worth the trip to Columbus. If you live in Ohio, get on that GameTime app, get yourself some tickets. Super easy. You're going to find the best prices, last minute deals. I love GameTime.
What was that? Do you know the series they signed is like a 2-year deal? Like, are they playing next year at Notre Dame?
Yeah, I believe it's a home and home, but I don't think it's back-to-back years. I think I'm pretty sure there's a gap year.
Because you're not going to get that all the time. Notre Dame.
No, it's special. Well, you never know.
So, yeah, well,
super. I don't want to start.
I don't want to get you mad.
Yeah, there might just be a conference game.
Yes, the point of that comment was because we want you to use the GameTime app when you're looking for your tickets this fall. So GameTime is a ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price. They really cracked the code on how to score deals on last-minute tickets, so go check them out, like I said, for the fall, or a ton of MLB left, so go do that. And the more the season goes on, and if your team's crappy, tickets are going to be cheaper. Or even if your team's good, you'll find some deals on GameTime. So go check that out. If you want to get out to the ballpark, best part, you get $20 off your first purchase. Download the GameTime app, go to the account tab to create a login and redeem code DOGWALK for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download GameTime, last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I get so triggered by that. the super conference thing. It just, nothing in the news right now bothers me more than the super conference stuff.
I mean, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Speaking of, as well, though, you have a lovely hat on. Barstool Chicago hat.
The patch.
Yeah,
the patch hat. This is my favorite, I think, that we've ever put out. Fits my head the right way. It's simple, like the hat. And then I like the patch so much.
You put it on a hoodie.
Put it on a hoodie.
Yeah, so it's beautiful.
Yep.
Go check that out, store.barstoolsports.com. Just hit the Barstool Chicago tab. We got that, and we also have a new hat. I'll wear the new hat tomorrow. So I'm going to wear the new hat on the show tomorrow, and as well as the new sweatshirt. So go check out the merch. All right, Chief. We're doing Colts.
Colts. Not the Colts. Not the Indianapolis Colts.
Not the Colts.
Did
it sound like I was talking?
A little bit, yeah.
Not talking Edger and James.
Nope.
We're talking Skull and Bones, fucking Manson. We're talking all that shit.
Yeah. So I was in Connecticut this weekend with Kevin Deneen and all those guys that we were at the golf tournament last year. And Deneen has a son at Yale. He just did his freshman year. So as a joke, I was like, how was your first year? You joined Skull and Bones yet? And he just goes, oh, no, that's senior year. And I was like, wait, what? I was joking, dude. He goes, yeah, well, I don't know if I want to be in it anyways. I'm like, yeah, maybe stay out of that. I don't know if you want to be in that.
Fuck, I'd be in it.
Yeah, you wouldn't last a day.
In Skull and Bones?
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think that's not you. It's not me.
Yeah.
You want to run the world?
No.
No.
I don't.
Seems like a lot of work.
But I like the option. I like to know
we can't even get this office to function correctly.
I know, but I like to know the people that are going to run the world, though.
Yes. But if you were in Skull and Bones, you could probably just have people killed, threatened, that are bothering you.
Yeah,
It's not bad.
Put a tail on someone,
a little
it'd be
perk,
nice.
We'll rattle their cage a little bit.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
Where is the cult located that we're going to be talking about today?
So this one is called the Superior Universal Alignment Cult, and they're out of Brazil and Argentina. And this was a listener suggestion. He DM'd you. I don't know if I got the same DM or not, but he DM'd you, and he got the name wrong. So he called it the Superior Universal Life Alignment Cult. So I was like Googling. I couldn't find it. The only thing that kept popping up initially was the Universal Life Church. And I was like, oh shit, that's the church that I, quote unquote, joined so I could be ordained to be the officiate at Carl's wedding. So I was sitting there like for a panic for a couple minutes being like, oh shit, did I join a cult? Just not even know it. And, but nope, it was the wrong name. So that was the Superior Universal Alignment Cult. And they're out. It's started by this woman named Valentina de Andrade. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I have to get Spanish major White Sox Dave in here to get that. But she's from Argentina. But the cult largely took place in northern Brazil in a place called Altamira, which is like northern Brazil, kind of in the Amazon rainforest, like a remote kind of small little community near towards like the mouth of the river. So you're not like super deep in. You're like kind of out toward maybe, I don't know, 100, 200 miles from the coast, but Amazon like dense rainforest. Mm-hmm. So that's where it was. And Valentina was this, remember Baba Vanga?
Yeah.
Okay. Of course. So old, that was 2019, I think.
A long time ago.
Yeah. So Baba Vanga and this Valentina, she was kind of positioning herself that way, that she was a seer, she was a clairvoyant, she would talk to people, like local people in the community, and she would give like these predictions about what would happen in their life. And I couldn't really find, the research on this was difficult. There was like no really great concrete sources. So there was no examples of like specific things that she would say, but she would get these predictions right enough that she started becoming like a prominent figure in that area, that people would go to see her, and she would, tell their fortunes, and she kind of started growing this mass of people around her. And this was, in the early 80s. And then it came out, they're like, how do you know all this? How do you know all this? And she goes, well, aliens told me. So aliens came down and told me, and they've been telling me all sorts of things. And so she had kind of built up some credibility with these other little predictions about people's lives. And then she dropped the bomb, and I'm like, yep, communicating with aliens. Big deal. And she wrote like a little book called, quote unquote, God, the Big Farce. So she had these kind of core principles that she started preaching that were God didn't actually exist. Okay. So this whole perception of humanity and like, Judeo-Christian ethics. And if you think of, Brazil, South America, or really all Latin America, very Christian, very Catholic country. So if you have this clairvoyant seer out there and she's being like, God doesn't even really exist. And they'd be like, well, what about Jesus? And she's like, Jesus existed. He was actually an alien though. So Jesus came down to earth to preach to the people and teach people about enlightenment and about love. But he too was an alien. And they're like, oh shit, Jesus was an alien. Like, that makes some sense. So like people were like, really like starting to like buy into a lot of the things that she was saying. Like, hey, what else you got for us? And she's like, well, male children born after 1981, they're the embodiment of evil. So that was like one of her like core things. God doesn't exist. Jesus alien, male children, and these are like babies, at this point, because it's the early 80s. Male children born after 1981 were the embodiment of evil. And, aliens were coming to save her and her followers and from the end of the world. And the end of the world was coming in 1989. So she started preaching this line of stuff in like 81, 82, and like growing followers. And, when she would say things to these parents like, you need to rid yourself of negative energy. And nothing has more negative energy than your own children. Think of how much they cost. They're always whining. You can't sleep. You can't do shit. So people like neglect or sometimes cast their children aside, like go run wild in the streets. People like the parents were abandoning their children based on the teachings of this Valentina de Andrade.
That's fucked up.
Pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Pretty fucked up. So, and this is like a growing cult, and there weren't any numbers about how big the cult got. It wasn't when they had Jonestown, right? Which I think we've talked about that here before. And there was 900. They had like specific numbers, these different ones. It was more well documented, so I don't know how big the group got.
I don't know if we ever did Jonestown. We should do it sometime.
We should then.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe we talked about it as an offshoot of something else.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done a bunch.
Yeah. So fast forward to 1989. Her and her followers sitting around the Amazon jungle waiting for this spaceship. Clock ticks to 1990. World still spinning. No spaceship. And they're like, hey, Valentina, what the fuck? And Valentina says, talk to the aliens. We haven't earned the right to leave on the spaceship. That we have too much negative energy and there's too much evil in the world, and the spaceship won't come and pick us up until we purge the world of more evil. And that means we got to kill some children, some male children born after 1981. So between the years of 1990 and 1993, kids in the area start disappearing. So that there were a total of 19 children reported missing that were never found, but they think the numbers were probably higher because there were all these, this is an impoverished nation, and you have a lot of children who just kind of take to the streets. Like if you've ever seen, what's that movie, Lion? I think we've talked about someplace before where Lion is in Mumbai and in India, but there's just and there's been documentaries about this where there's just bands of children running around the streets homeless, and they just somehow they find each other and they live in these little homeless, and then they sometimes get to an orphanage or whatever, but there's just children picking through the trash, and it breaks your heart. But that happens in a lot of places. So they don't know exactly how many children were killed, but they ended up finding 5 bodies, and these bodies were mutilated. So genitals removed. They also found 5 of these bodies that had vital organs removed, and it was found out that they were selling these vital organs on the black market to help fund some of their cult activities. A 9-year-old boy who had been abducted and taken back to the cult center where all these murders were happening managed to escape, and he goes in, gets back to a town, and tells the police. And the police go and make arrests based on this testimony. And it was kind of shocking that you had doctors were involved. Some people from the local police department were involved, wealthy, land and business owners from the area. So she had this community, and I don't want to compare the Mormon church to them, but there's the Mormon church collects more money from their, parishioners or whatever they call their members, and they're supposed to give a 10% tithe of whatever their annual income is. They give it to the church, and it sounds like she was able to coerce a lot of her members into giving a lot of their money to her in the movement. And it was because they had, she's like, hey, well, if you believe in me and I told you about that thing that was going to happen in your life and I was right, you should donate to us. And people did. And so it wasn't just lunatics, right? It was people, well, clearly they're lunatics, but people who had excuse me, a prominent place in the society. So it was holy shit. So she goes on the run, and they eventually do catch her, but she had a pretty strong alibi even though the kid was yeah, she's there. She had a strong alibi, and she also said she didn't participate. So it was almost like the Charles Manson defense. Okay. And she got off. So she was fully acquitted in 2003. She left Brazil, but she never really got in trouble. And the movement, this superior universal alignment cult, still exists. And again, no indication on their numbers. Valentina still preaches, still saying Jesus was an alien. She does it more so. I think the last time people had there was a record of her somewhere preaching. It was in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, where she's from originally. But like, she's just living her life, and like, you know, allegedly, supposedly, at least directed the murder, the abduction and murder and torture of, you know, at least 19 children, possibly more, and 5 confirmed dead bodies with all the, like, the horrible genital mutilation and organ removal. So this is like an evil, insane woman that got off. She started a cult, and like, usually, like, you hear about these cults and they end in a couple of ways, where it's like they do like a mass suicide, or somebody goes to jail, or there's a murder or something like that. And that's how the cult ends. Not this case. She's still out there just living her life. So as you know, fully acquitted in 2003, and basically just because the alibi was strong, and was like, hey, I didn't do that. Mm-hmm. So they had arrested and convicted 4 people who were involved in for the murder of the children. She wasn't one of them. So, because she was just like, hey, I didn't do it. Like, I didn't do it. They did it. I didn't do it. And so, for whatever reason, I don't know if the laws are different down there or what, but like that Charles Manson defense, because he didn't actually commit the murders either, that his group was tried for, I believe. You probably know more about that than me. But they still convicted him and sentenced, you know, he died in prison, right?
Charles Manson?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So he was in prison. He had a life sentence, and that held up for her. Like, I didn't actually do it. So even if she was coercing, telling people what to do, instructing people what to do, preaching this for a decade plus, didn't matter, because they're saying that she had an alibi and she didn't actually do it.
And it's tough because we don't know the laws down there.
Right.
Like, so it's like.
But it's one of those things where it's like, I know common sense law.
Correct.
I know
like
what good and evil is.
Yeah.
And that's evil.
It's tough. I say it's tough because, like, it's surprising to us hearing that, but also, like, I don't know, because just not knowing their laws. You just.
Telling people to murder children, bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like the Memphis lady.
Yeah. But she died of cancer, at least.
Yeah.
You know, like, and the Memphis lady who was like stealing children and giving them away to other people.
Yes.
Yeah. She is evil. We could do like an evil woman week, and these two would be they would probably make the cut. And so yeah, she's
Georgia Tan was
Georgia Tan. I was blanking on her name. And but yeah, this woman, Valentina de Andrade, from Altavira, Brazil, just out there still, Jesus is an alien. Because
do they know where she is?
The last time she was, the last record I could find of her preaching was down in Buenos Aires.
Okay.
But that was, I think, from 2018. So I don't know how often or where she is now, but she's not in jail, and she's apparently still alive and still kicking and doing her thing.
You know, I get that people have the desire to want to believe something.
Totally.
I understand that. But if it comes down to you killing a kid,
that's
probably should look into something else.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, I say this all the time to just people in my like personal life, where it's like, you know, the reason that like no one knows where their own thoughts come from. We talked about this with Dante too, but the purpose of your mind, your conscious mind, is to criticize the thoughts that you can't control. So if you're in a place where someone is being like, kill that 6-year-old, you have to be like, should I be killing that 6-year-old? And then the answer is always no.
Yes.
And like, you have to be able to like think that way. And it's great to believe in things, and it can be very positive, but you have to be able to have your own critical thoughts so you don't end up just, falling for anything and doing heinous, evil shit.
Yeah. We've talked about some fucked up shit on this show.
We really have.
Yeah.
It's dark. And I wasn't even on very many true crimes.
Yeah.
The True Crime Fridays was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. So,
but this is like at a different level.
Yeah.
Like that was more like mostly senseless, like people who just, I mean, this is senseless too.
Yeah, but there is, because they have like for its degrees of murder where it's like planned out, you know?
Yeah.
So if it's like between the difference between first and third is like, well, it was like you got in a fight and killed the guy versus you plotted to kill somebody.
Yeah.
This is like she's plotting to kill and children for 12 years.
Yeah, and there's like power and shit behind this, and like money as well.
Yeah,
there's money behind that stuff too.
Yeah,
not so much like being in charge.
Another thing where it's just like, you know, we kind of glossed over it, but where they killed the children and then they took the organs out, and it's like, how the fuck, like, what kind of people where there's a black market for organs? Like, aren't you, if you're buying that and selling that, aren't you like, like, how did you get that? Like, and like, I can't like
Dude,
that's
right?
a 6-year-old's heart. Like, how did you fucking get that?
That was such like an urban legend growing up, you know, where like you wake up in a bathtub without your kidney.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be an interesting episode, like to find
The
out
black
the black
market
of organs.
Yeah.
We should do that.
We should add it to the list of fucking dark, twisted shit that we have to talk about on this show.
I think maybe, what do you think's been the most memorable, infamous, in an infamous way, the most memorable one? I would say probably the most I've seen you, I don't want to say rattled, but the most I've seen you like was that testing for that Asian, forget what it was. Was it China or Japan?
Oh, the World War II.
Yes.
Yeah, where they were doing all these
Japan.
like, yeah, it's like Unit 731, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one where Japan had invaded northern China during World War II, and they would go to these, and they have these prisoners of war and just be like, what can the human body endure? Let's cover this guy. Let's put this guy outside in the winter, throw buckets of water on him until he freezes, then bring him inside and throw hot water on him and see what happens. And the skin would just explode and peel off.
It was called Unit 731.
Yeah.
We did the episode on Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, if you want to go check back on it. It was a crazy one.
And that's like another one where it's like people who were responsible, if I remember correctly, weren't like punished that hard or at all. Like when you had when you're rebuilding Japan, they had an easier time than post World War II Germany, where they had the Nuremberg trials and they were like bringing these war criminals to justice, and for the Holocaust. But there was all sorts of horrible, like this Unit 731 going on in the the Far East and between China and Asia, and China and Japan, in Japan and other places, that they did these awful things. And we're just like, yeah, okay, we have to worry about the Soviets, and we're just gonna we're gonna dismiss this
Gloss
kind of,
it over,
and it's like, this is fucked up.
It certainly was.
Yep.
I would recommend that if you have a strong stomach for that. Is it the right word? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
one of those things where it's like, it's like the biggest cliche in the world, but it's like, if you don't learn from history, then you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
You have to, I think people have to know about these things.
Yeah.
And it's, you have to know. So it's worth looking into to make sure that, like, so you see like kind of the warning signs of what's going on in the world. We're like, hey, this is fucked up. So you can't just look the other way on stuff, because otherwise it's like, well, we're just doing it for a fucking science experiment. But it's like, no, it's a human being that you're splitting his skin open. So.
All right, then,
bad.
Chief, thank you.
Yep.
There you go. Another cult episode in the books, people.
Superior universal alignment.
Yep. Thank you for listening. That's it for today. We will be back tomorrow. We will see you then.